Hello and welcome, Inspired Podcast community. This is your new episode. My name is Caroline. My today's guest is Guy Johnson, and I'm so happy that he said yes to our interview. How are you doing today?
I am very blessed, Caroline, and thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Oh, it's an honor to have you here. That's true. And I would like to introduce you to the audience, of course. You are a retired CIA executive, US Army veteran, and leadership expert who now helps leaders recover, rebuild, and rise stronger. As the number one best-selling author of Strive and Heal, you guide executives across government, corporate, and nonprofit sectors in transforming breakdowns into breakthroughs. Welcome to the Inspired Podcast. Wow, Guy
Thank you.
Johnson.
Thank you so
What a
much.
beautiful name. Okay, my first question, because we are curious about you. In your book, Strive to Heal, you highlight the inner work of leadership. What does that look like in practice for leaders facing burnout?
Yeah, so the whole strive to heal concept, when so as it helps if I break it down just a little bit. When I was matriculating through my career at the CIA, I ran most of their leadership and development courses. And when I retired, I was reflecting on the fact that we didn't really address specifically what do leaders do when they've had a breakdown. We teach a lot of the outer work. These are the qualities, and that's the strive part that we can talk about. Here are the five things that good leaders should do. Um, and that's great. Those are important practices, but it's the inner work that I discovered was really critical. And I discovered it because I had my own leadership breakdown, my own leadership failure. I talk about it in the book. And when I was looking around trying to figure out, number one, why did I react the way that I did, and how do I recover and rebuild myself, I couldn't really find something specifically in the leadership area designed for leaders who've gone through this, at least in the way that resonated with me. So as I was working through my own inner work, which took like 5 years to recover, it took a long time. But when I reflected on it as I started writing this book, um, I started piecing it together, and that's what came out to heal. And it's an acronym, and I won't go too long on it. But what I discovered, the four things that were really, really critical for me for the inner work, the first one was to honor your story. And what I meant by that is do some hard introspective work. You might have to work with a counselor and things, but if you were triggered in a way that you reacted in a way that maybe cost you, maybe it cost the credibility that you had, or it cost your reputation. That's what happened with me, because I just snapped when somebody said something to me that where I felt challenged. I snapped before I even thought. And so as I was trying to figure out, like, why did I react that way? Why was I so triggered by them challenging me? And what am I trying to compensate for? I had to do a lot of work and go back and figure out, wow, I've been insecure since I was bullied at 8 years old. And I've spent my whole adult life trying to overcome that bullying and compensate for it and those types of things. And so once you honor your story, then you can understand, okay, now I understand why I react that way. So then you can begin that part of your inner work. The E is to embrace emotional agility. um, a lot of leaders are raised, particularly because I'm prior military and then I served in the government. We're very rigid in the way that we approach things. And unfortunately, if you've if you've ever watched like a really rigid tree, it takes one strong wind and it'll just blow it down. You need to be flexible like a palm tree, right? Like like bamboo. You need to be able to move with things so that you don't get triggered. And when these things do happen, you can step back, take a breath, and respond in a way that reflects your values. And that's what A is. Align your identity with your actions. Are you saying what you mean what you say? If we were to do a 360 evaluation, for example, and asked the people who work with you and for you, what are Caroline's values? Would their response reflect what you say your values are? Or are you the leader that says, I'm all about my people because I'm a strong leader, but every time there's a big accomplishment, you're the first one to take credit, right? So are you aligning your identity with your actions? And then the last one is L, which is lead yourself first. You can't help others until you take care of yourself first. And I think that's where a lot of leaders who've gone through a breakdown discover, it's like, man, I didn't do any inner work on myself. If my employee had reacted the way that I did, would I Would I punish them for the next 5 years like I punished myself? Or would I send them over to some additional training to figure out like where did this disconnect come from so that we can build you back up and get you back on the road? Until you work on yourself, it's kind of like the airline thing, right? You got to put your own mask on before you help others. And so really focus on yourself, because we lose track of taking care of ourselves when we're so busy taking care of others. So those were the steps that I had to go through in my own recovery journey. And that's where the heal part of the Strive to Heal framework came from.
Wow, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. Now I understand the acronym. I love it. Yes,
Thank
and
you.
especially the lead yourself first, because this is what we often overlook, I think. We try to change things on the outside or other people, but that's not possible. We have to start with ourselves. Of course, I
Yes,
have
ma'am.
another question for you.
Sure.
You've had an extraordinary journey from CIA and the army to becoming a leadership consultant. How did those experiences shape your philosophy of resilience?
It's a great question. I so it it's actually it actually still goes back to these insecurities. I never felt good enough, and so I got my college degree. I ended up getting a master's degree and got hired on after I got injured in the military, so I got out, but then I was fortunate enough to get hired into the CIA, and I still didn't feel good enough. And so I said, okay, I need one more leg up. So I went off and I got my PhD. And then I was like, huh, okay, so this is cool. I did it in organizational leadership and development. So I'm like, man, I discovered I really have a passion for this. And I wanted to go into teaching, but the dean of the school, when I went there, they laughed and they said, "You need to go get some experience first and come back after you have some war stories to tell." So I went out and served in different places and gained a lot of experience and was fortunate enough to come back and be able to get into the instruction world and just it's one of those moments where you discover like, "Man, I'm really good at this, and I had no idea." I don't know if you woke up one day like, "I did not know I would have, like, a globally recognized podcast." Would you somebody might have had to pinch you a decade ago or something, right? The world is just funny that way. Life is funny that way. I discovered not only do I have a passion for it, but my passion happens to align to my skills, um, and so I fell in love with it, and I didn't want to stop just because I retired. I wanted to take all of this experience. I happen to have what I think is a kind of cool balance of a lot of academia stuff of learning a bunch of books and stuff, but I also have real practical application. So I was trying to figure out like how can I put those together? And if I do, who do I want to serve? And I was like, well, initially I was like, oh, I just want to serve like senior executives and CEOs because that's who I'm used to dealing with. And then I was like, nah, that's too easy. Like I want to specialize in a group that I think could really benefit from my own setbacks and things and the things that I've learned. And that's how I settled on I'm going to specialize in helping leaders recover from breakdown to breakthrough.
Wow. Yes, that sounds very specific. And you also talked about feeling insecure and not good enough. Would you say, because there's one word that came into my mind, imposter syndrome?
Oh, so
How would
much.
you? Yeah.
So much imposter syndrome because I knew that even though I hadn't worked on myself yet, I knew that I never felt good enough. And I had risen through senior ranks and had really big positions and those kinds of things. And that's why when I was challenged publicly in front of a group where a junior officer told me to, be quiet, we're trying to work over here. Before I could even think, it came out of my mouth, "Who in the heck do you think you're talking to? Do you know who I am?" I did the "Do you know who I am" thing, and I immediately just felt terrible. I'm a person who teaches leadership and has a PhD in leadership, and I failed so bad. I ended up having to step down from my leadership position. I had lost so much credibility, and it sent me on that spiral. And when I did that hard work in the heal part, what I discovered was I was so worried that this facade that I had built up, having all these titles and I'm Dr. Johnson and all these things, right? That that person challenging me the way they did, I was afraid everybody else was going to see like, oh, he's not a real leader, and it challenged something deep within in such a way that again emotional agility I had none, and so I just my first reaction is to react not violently, but aggressively, right? Because I hadn't done the hard inner work. So imposter syndrome, 100%. But when I was teaching senior executives, often, what I discover is the senior executives who struggle the most with their employees are suffering from some severe insecurities and emotional agility, which is why I became an executive coach as well. Like I wanted to be able to sit with them and work one on one and like dig into where do those insecurities come from so that we can confront them, address them, and hopefully over time overcome them.
Yes, I see. Thank you so much for clarifying. By the way, now I can reveal I'm also working on my PhD right now. So I know how it feels. But I have also the impression is will that be enough? Then will I have done enough academia, as you said, when I'm done with it? I don't know. But I have another question for you.
Sure.
It is many organizations suffer from toxic cultures. What is one
Mhm.
hidden cost of leadership failure that often gets overlooked?
Ego. Ego
Hmm.
is to me the number one cause of leadership failure. And it was so prevalent in my previous organization. I designed an entire 4-day course around how to manage ego. There's so many different aspects to it. When we think ego, we might just think of like some superstar. I won't put a name out there, some popular politician, whatever, and we think, oh, that's what an out of control ego looks like, you know. But no, it could be that senior executive that has been sitting up in the balcony for so long that they've completely lost touch with what it's like down on the working floor. That's ego. Or you're forgetting what the impact is of the decisions that you make, or that senior executive that comes in, and I use this as an example in the book because I actually saw this, that comes in and the first thing they do is have all the furniture changed out so they can get a brand new set of furniture, and all the furniture that they purchased was more than the salary of their executive assistant for the whole year, but the furniture that they replaced was less than 2 years old. That's ego. So it ego can show up in so many different ways. Ignoring feedback that you get. You only take in the good feedback, but you reject the bad feedback, or you only surround yourself with people who look like you, talk like you, went to your same school, because they're all going to tell you that everything you're doing is right because you guys all think alike, and that just feeds your ego. There's a lot of different other things, right? Like there's different things that can create a toxic workplace, but if I had to put like nail it down to the one that I've seen personally, it usually starts with ego and then it spirals from there.
Yes, that's so true. I totally agree. And another word would be pride, a
Pride.
little bit.
Yes.
We have this
Yes. And
saying
and pride
in
is tied
Germany.
directly. I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Mhm. No, we have the saying or quote in Germany that said pride comes before the fall. I don't
It
know
does.
in English if there's
That's
a
it.
similar.
Yeah, no, that's a very
Mhm.
popular term here too,
Mhm.
and it
Okay.
and it does. It came before
Mhm.
my own, and when we look around at leaders who eventually it caught up with them and they just they fell, usually you could nail that down to pride was so ingrained in everything that they did because they were trying to protect something. And again, that comes back to insecurity. If your pride is way up here, then the chances are your insecurities are a little bit higher, right? And so the pride will cometh before the fall. Absolutely.
That's so true. Thank you so much. Okay, my next question for you, for leaders listening right now who feel they are on the edge of a breakdown, what is the very first step they can take to start moving toward a breakthrough?
So I have a couple of things that I would offer them, and I'll give this to them for free because I'm just here to serve, and I would hope that it would help. If it helps one person not go through what I went through, then it's 100% worth it. So I never believed in this that much before, especially in the community that I come from. But if you think that you have a breakdown coming soon, go talk to somebody, see a counselor. There's a chance that there's something else going on in the background in your personal life that they could help you work through before you do damage to yourself, or even worse, you do damage to someone else because you didn't get ahead of it. So talk to somebody. Now we live in a culture where dealing with your mental health is actually considered a really good thing. It's not, it's still, there's stigmas in certain communities, in certain areas, but by and large, it's widely accepted. Like, work on yourself. That goes back to the lead yourself first. Go talk to somebody. And the other thing is, if you're thinking, well, maybe my values aren't aligned, and maybe there's something going on where there might be a breakdown coming, go get a 360 assessment done with your team. Get a real, true reflection of where you're at as a leader. How are you actually showing up? Not just what the people who want to get promoted by you are telling you, but get the truth from whatever resource you can get the truth from. And 360 assessment is really the best way to do that. And that will at least give you a starting point to figure out, these are the things that I really need to work on.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much. Yes, to face the truth is not always comfortable as well.
Yeah, it's one of the hardest things to do, right? Especially as senior
Mhm.
leaders, the only way you get to those positions is because you're really, really, really good at what you do. And being told that, yeah, you're really good at this thing over here, but this thing over here, no, you struggle. And that's really strong in the government. It shows up in the private sector too, but by and large, for public employees, if you will, in different, whether it's military, state, local, whatever it is, we're usually promoted into leadership positions because we're really, really good at this one thing over here. We can build this widget really, really well. And so they say, now go run a team of 10 that build this widget and teach them everything you know. Just because you're a subject matter expert doesn't mean that you're a leader of people. And a lot of times that's where the breakdown comes in. And if you're humble enough, and that's where you were saying pride comes before the fall, if you're humble enough to check in with your team anonymously using 360 feedback, because you really do want to be a good leader and take care of your people, then you'll be willing to take some of that really tough truth.
Yes, that makes sense. So we put the ego aside for a moment. It sure has also good qualities like guiding us or helping
Yes,
us to survive a little bit, yes, in
that's
tough
right.
times. Okay, my next question is about where can we find you when people want to reach out
Mm.
to you after listening to this episode?
Thank you so much. I can be reached. So the Strive to Heal book is available on Amazon and Kindle or Audible and those different places. But if you want to reach out to me, you can go to GuyJohnsonLeadershipConsulting.com. And sorry, they're cutting grass right outside. I hope it's not too loud. Um, yeah, so, and that's GYE, if in case you can't see it in print, but it's GYE Johnson leadershipconsulting.com, or you can go to GuyESpeaks.com. You can find me at either one of those. It has all of my social media, email contact, any other way that people might want to reach out.
Yes, thank you so much. And please reach out to Guy. He's amazing. I put the links in the show notes, of course, and the book. It's important to study this, not only studying, but also applying what's there and then reach out. Yes, my last question for today is about your
Sure.
goals. Do you set goals for yourself or intentions? And what is one of your next projects?
Yes, that's a great question. I didn't even expect that one, but yes, I'm huge into this now. So, being retired, we just relocated here in America from the Washington D.C. area down to big old Texas. So we're settling in, but the next big goal is I'm designing certification training courses around the Strive to Heal for folks to be able to enroll and come out and visit for 4 days, and we sit down and we really work through this, specifically for leaders who are either approaching breakdown or have gone through it. And so I'm designing all of that right now, and the goal is within the next 4 months to have those up on those websites I was talking about, where people will be able to register and start giving out this training to folks. I believe in the book, but I also know how important it is to just get people together where they can have some anonymity and some trust in the inner circle and just talk about some of their struggles that they may be going through, and do it in person so we could work through it that way. So that's my next goal.
It's so important to build confidence as well.
Yes,
In contrast, the contrary is insecurity you talked about.
that's right.
Yes, thank you so much. And when you talk about 4 days and sitting
Mhm.
down, is it in person also? Is it like a retreat or not yet?
It's really interesting. What I came up with is I'm gonna have an online only version for those who aren't able to make it. I'm gonna have it in person, just kind of a mid tier for folks who want to come out because they have training funds and they really want to do it. But then for the really senior executives, once a year, I'm gonna do a really nice retreat at a certain location that's gonna be much more inclusive as far as taking nature hikes and that kind of thing, and just having those kinds of conversations. So it's going to be a tiered thing. That's why it's going to take me a little while to put it together. But the content's going to be there. The content will be the same, but some tiers will include free coaching and that kind of thing. So I'm breaking all that down, and that's what I'm working through right now. So I'm really excited about what it's going to turn into.
I love that. I love your projects, and thank you so much for our interview. I would like to add, because this is your word, so to
Mhm.
say, in your vocabulary, the word breakthrough, breakdown. And when you talk about retreat, it's like a break. You take a
Yes.
break and then you
Yes.
reset also. You reset and start new.
That I love that. I didn't even put that together, but you're 100% right. We all need a retreat where we can just take a break for a moment, focus on ourselves, and then when we go back, we show up much better than when we left, and that's the point.
Oh, and that is true for me. I will show up better after this interview. Thank you so much. No, I mean it, even though I
Oh,
have to smile about my own expressions here. Thank you so much. Now it's
oh,
time for your final thoughts to the audience, please.
my final thoughts. If you feel like if you want to show up as the leader, the best version of yourself, start with yourself. Don't just focus on the outward work of the top 5 leadership skills that every leader should know. Focus on yourself, and I promise you, you will show up much, much better. Nobody retires and says, "Man, I can't believe how many widgets I was able to build thanks to that person's leadership." But what they will say is, "I'm so blessed to have worked for that person because every day I knew when I showed up, they genuinely cared about me." That's the leader that we all want to strive to be.
Yes, 100%. Thank you so much for our interview.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much again.
And I see you in the next episode.